Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I want to talk to you real quick about this $1.7 trillion omnibus bill. Sorry if I sound a little rough. I'm still very sick. But we need to talk about this. Rep Dan Bishop is on an absolute tear. This guy is tearing through this bill as fast as possible. You haven't heard about it. It's the funding package that Congress is trying to push through. They introduced it at like 2 a.m. the other night and then expected Congress to vote on it. It is not going well. Rep Dan Bishop here on Twitter is outlining all of the pork and fluff that is in this bill. It comes in at 4,155 pages, and it is loaded. Let's run through some of these tweets that he is dropping like a madman. I mean, absolute terror. This is freaking great. So this dropped yesterday. He's tweeting this morning again. Let's look at what he put out yesterday. So in the bill, it expressly prohibits CBP funding from being used to improve border security. This one did get a little fact checked. It says that there's $230 million for acquisition and deployment of border security technologies on page 696. I don't know if that's true or not. Twitter fact checking is getting better, but most of the money does not go to border funding, even though it's highlighted for border patrol. The same time, it allocates $410 million towards border security for Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman. I'm glad we're protecting their borders and not ours. And they get more money. And they get almost double the money. Ridiculous. And of course, $1.4 billion for membership in global multilateral organizations, including the UN. Got to pay our dues, boys and girls. Got to make sure we're paid up. The word salmon appears 48 times in the bill. Apparently, salmon is the new pork in this one. I mean, they give so much money to salmon. Here's $65 million for salmon. Here's $3 million for bee-friendly highways. That's a concern. Bee-friendly highway. I don't even know what that looks like. And another $5 million for the salmon. Like they get a right-of-way program. Awesome. Go salmon. Unless the other fish feel left out of the spending spree. Here's $65.7 million for international fisheries commissions. Word. On a more sinister note, here's at least $575 million for family planning in areas where population growth threatens biodiversity. Start to pay attention to this if you watched my climate lockdowns video, 15-minute cities. You can start to see some similarities in this bill to some of the things that they're pushing over there. Saying. Let's see, $65 million in 2 programs for Senator Lethe and a federal building named for Nancy Pelosi. The swamp got a swamp. She already got a portrait. Now she's getting a federal building. Let's see. There's $3.6 million for Michelle Obama Trail. I mean, that's critical. Got to have a trail. I'm confident that they're going to make Michelle Obama the 2024 presidential Democratic nominee. I'm going to go on the record now and say she's the one they're going to trump out and stump out for this next go round. I think she's their candidate. $477,000 for anti-racist training for the Equity Institute. $3 million for LGBTQ Museum in New York City. $1.2 million services for DACA recipients. $4.1 million for various career programs for one of the richest counties in the U.S., Fairfax County, Virginia. Ridiculous. An additional $47 billion in Ukraine funding. And if that's not enough, it also authorizes a Ukrainian Independence Park right here in D.C. Monuments for journalists and service animals. Got to make sure that they're represented. The bill also renames 25 post offices, in addition to the dozens we've already renamed this season. Goes on to say, I'm amazed that we haven't run out of post offices to rename yet. It's bound to happen eventually. Got a kick out of that one. $524 million for DEI and structural racism-focused NIH subdivision. $300K per year for continuous plankton recorder. Let's see, $200 million for Pakistan Gender Equity Fund. Pakistan getting paid. They got almost as much as our border security. That's absolutely, oh my God. Anyway, last year's administration, you're going to love this one. Last year's administration expenses for the industry trust fund worth $13.2 million. It is now $15.2 million, a 15% increase, anticipating a 15% increase in vaccine injuries. It also authorizes sums as may be necessary for vaccine injury death claims. Gearing up for that legal fight. $335 million to prepare for an influenza pandemic, including the use of surveillance tools. Absolutely frightening stuff in here, boys and girls. I'm telling you, surveillance tools, you're using this to lay the groundwork for those climate lockdown cities. They are coming, I'm telling you. $7.5 million to better understand the domestic radicalization phenomenon, plus $1 million for gun violence research. $535 million for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Basically, NPR getting $535 million. Got to keep that propaganda machine running, boys and girls. The provision will double the 66,000 available H-2B visas, temporary low-skilled workers. The H-2B program is highly prone to abuse and hurts American workers. I will say this is one of the few that running a tourist town, these workers do help us. We don't have enough natives to fill in the jobs. So this program actually helps. It's been shut down for a long time. It's been really hard. I'm not entirely opposed to this one, though I don't know how much this is going to cost. Oh, here we go. Everybody's favorite organization. I don't know if you've been following along in the Twitter files. The FBI, $11.33 billion for them. $1.7 billion for the ATF. That one infuriates me. $2.63 billion for U.S. attorneys with an emphasis on J6 prosecutions and domestic terrorism cases. Let that one sink in. Let that one sink in. All significant increases over the previous year. Did you know that the House of Representatives has an Office of Diversity and Inclusion? It's set to receive $26 million. Also included in the bill, regulations on cosmetics, changes to horse racing rules, and the Electoral Count Act. They want to change how the count is done for presidents, boys and girls. More voter manipulation right here. $286 million in Title X funding, which includes Planned Parenthood. You're pro-life, that's not good for you. $70 million for minority business development, an increase of $15 million from 2022. The Omnibus was released at 2 a.m. today. The Senate is now voting to begin debate on this bill. I don't know how they expect people to read that. $750K for Trans-Latin Coalition, $2.35 million improvement maintenance for the Iditarod Trail, $1.5 million for the restoration of Albany, New York City Hall, $400K for Racial Justice Improvement Project. We run over here and look at what he's got going on today. This is him, Rep. Dan Bishop, sorry, I'm very sick. U.S. Congress proudly representing 9th District of North Carolina. He goes on to say his team is reading through it. They have a diversity action plan requirements for the FDA studies. Salmon is the new pork. Here you go. $5 million for reintroduction, $1 million to protect salmon from toxic chemicals, $750K for Oregon salmon conservation. Bill allocates $47 billion for the Ukraine, bringing total aid to greater than $100 billion. Zelensky will address Congress and will likely ask for even more money. Meanwhile, Pelosi is comparing him to Churchill and says that democracy is on the line. $6 million to Clemson University, $982,000 for motel vouchers in LA, $817,000 for partnerships with the justice-involved individuals in Glendale, California. $2 million for improving coordination in the New York City mayor's office. A lot of blue going on here, boys and girls. The Pentagon will get $8.6 million for gender advisory programs. $166 million for neighborhood reinvestment activities. $4 million for shared equity housing models. The bill also, this one's frightening. This is where they're coming. Think of the Dutch farmers. I just put a video out on them. How to eliminate white men. This is the same approach, and it's buried in here. The bill also allocates $900 million for land acquisition and related programs. Don't we think the federal government owns enough land already? I mean, here in Wyoming, they own 50% of the state already, for good Lord. The EPA gets $10.1 billion, an increase of $576 million. The bill creates a pandemic czar, adding to our already bloated bureaucracy and giving the government even more avenues to stifle civil liberties in the name of public health. In addition to a federal building, Nancy Pelosi also gets a fellowship program for foreign service, $2 million in Nancy Pelosi's fellowship program. Awesome, just what the world needs. More Nancy Pelosi. I will put a link to this. Oh, here's another good one before I go ahead and say that. The FBI is getting a new $375 million headquarter. Final location to TBD. Look for that fight in the next Congress. Retiring Senator Shelby already has several buildings named after him. This adds an FBI training center to the list. I will put a link to Twitter down in the description. I'll link to Rep Bishop here. You can go see what he's outlining and see what your elected officials are spending your hard-earned money on. At $1.7 trillion, I don't even know what the math works out for each person. It's an ungodly sum of money. I don't know how you ever pay it back. This bill is absolutely huge. This should not be passed, should not be introduced at 2 a.m. and try to be passed the next morning. There's no way anybody's reading all of this. It seems like he's trying to get as much out as he can, but guys, we're just getting fleeced left and right here. This is absolutely. Go check this out. I encourage you to get on Twitter. It's where all the action is. It's where all of this news and information is dropping. Forget Facebook. Forget Instagram. I've basically abandoned those. Twitter is where the new truth is. It has definitely become the new town square. Go check this out. Get involved. Let me know down in the comments, excuse me, which piece of spending aggravates you the most. There's so many to choose from. You've got a true horn and horn buffet of egregions here. Anyway, I will catch you guys in the next one.